Hello, family, and welcome to 1 Billion in Financing. You know, our goal is to help 1,000 entrepreneurs raise over $1 billion in capital for our growing companies. And one of the ways that we can grow our revenues is through the power of LinkedIn. So I've got the LinkedIn master here, Johannes Watts, who's here to tell us all about how to grow with LinkedIn. And I'm laughing because I just got my copy of Inc. magazine, and of course, Marcus Lemonis from The Prophet is on front. And it says here, 40,000 businesses want him to come to their rescue because he's the fixer. Well, you know what? I'm going to put Johannes' picture here because he's the fixer for us today. Welcome, Johannes.
Cherie, good to catch up with you today, and thanks for inviting me.
All righty then. Well, let's get started with talking about you and how you got your start with using LinkedIn. You weren't always a LinkedIn professional.
No, I wasn't. I started my career in kind of a flip-flop. First, I started a business a few years out of school, realized I didn't know how to sell anything, so I went back and got a full-time job in B2B sales. Kind of learned the ropes of networking and, what a sales pipeline was, what is a proposal, what is a prospect, and how to cold call and all that good stuff. So I did that for about 5 or 6 years. I was able to leave that, go back to running my business full time once I had a good understanding of networking and relationship building and sales. During that period, I was using LinkedIn for my job and then started using it for my business and got the entrepreneurial bug for a second time in 2012 and started Learn to Link, where I'm teaching B2B sales professionals and organizations how to leverage the power of LinkedIn. And, of course, I bring my experience from owning a business and also having been in B2B sales myself.
Great. So one of the things that I like about you is you actually started using the methods that you're going to talk about today with your cleaning company. So one of the things sometimes that bothers me when I listen to interviews is I'm dealing with somebody who just teaches, who gets their business teaching LinkedIn from, and all of their case studies is how they got business using LinkedIn to teach LinkedIn. And not being able to put it towards a regular business or a non-social media business. So that's one of the things I love about you and your story. So I want to dive in here with, I love statistics, and I was online. I got this article from a guy named Jerry Moran who said a couple of interesting things. One of the first things he said is that on LinkedIn, there are over 1 billion searches annually on LinkedIn. So people are on LinkedIn. Do you find that people are really on LinkedIn looking for companies to do business with?
Yeah, and I think that's a very good question. I think the way there might be a little bit of a misconception on how people are searching. I think if we're just doing a general search, right, if we're searching for restaurants in the DC metro or, we're looking up, museums or, things like that or cleaning service or whatever, I think most people when they're doing that type of search, they're going to go to Google, right? I think when people search something in LinkedIn is when they get a name, right, a name of you or I or a decision maker, and they want to kind of start that search beginning with that decision maker. So they want to see what Johannes Watts is all about, what Johannes Watts looks like, where Johannes Watts comes from and what their professional background is, or a Cherie Warwick. So you can go into LinkedIn and search for anything. If you want to, where people usually search at the top search bar and they'll type in a name, Tom Smith, Cherie Warwick. You can put anything in that search bar. You can put clown, you can put LinkedIn, you can put financing. So you can put anything, search for any phrase in LinkedIn, but I think the majority of people are searching by first and last name. Or second, if they're not looking for first and last name, then they'll tend to type in a title or some type of expertise. So they'll search for LinkedIn expert or financing expert. But the majority of people, in my opinion, are searching by first and last name.
Great, great. And the second part of his sentence was 87% of purchases start with the search engine. So one of the things that we consider is, I heard a statistic recently that 57% of a buying decision is done before the person even contacts you or calls you. And I've been saying for probably about 6 months now, I want to be one of the 3 people that's called when someone thinks I need a business plan, I'm raising capital. How do I position myself? Or for the person that is a consultant, maybe they do HR consulting or some other type of B2B service. How do we actually use the power of Google and the power of LinkedIn, which I know you teach, in order to be discovered?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a SEO expert, but obviously if that's part of your marketing or search engine strategy and you want to have, some type of SEO service in the background as far as the Google search, in the LinkedIn world, to me, all of my trainings always start with the profile. And you had a great way that you phrase that is how do you position yourself? So you could already be a locally known expert or an expert that's known in certain circles. But again, you want to use LinkedIn as a tool so that when to kind of expand your visibility beyond your local area. Now, you and I started out by networking in a BNI and local groups, and we've known each other for years. And a lot of times I see people get stuck in a local conundrum, right? But these days with social media, you need to really think about, your business could be global. If you're doing consulting, you could be doing consulting all over the world. So it starts with that LinkedIn profile. Again, if somebody types in Cherie Work, you're going to want to have that nice professional photo for that first impression. You're going to want to have a nice headline that kind of says what you do and lets that person know that they're the type of people that you help. And then you also want to take some time to craft that summary section that kind of tells your story and not just kind of says, well, I'm Cherie Work or I'm Johannes Watts and I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread and I'm this and I'm that. You need to talk to that person who's looking at your profile. So you want to talk in the first person and you want to tell them, yes, that you're experienced, but here's how my experience can help you. Or yes, I've got these awards, but here's what it means in terms of helping you get those results. So you really do want to use that LinkedIn profile as that first point of contact that helps position you as the expert or the go-to person in your field.
Great. Well, another statistic that I thought was interesting in this article that I read was something like 42% of people don't have their profile. Yeah, 49% don't have their profiles finished. And I just thought that most people had their So tell us what a complete profile looks like. What are the basics of creating a complete profile?
Great question. And LinkedIn actually guides you and showing you, how you can complete your profile. Usually when you log in there, you'll get those little pop-up messages from LinkedIn. Do you want to add another skill? Do you want to add your education? So it's a couple of things. It's a photo. It's a headline. It's a summary section. It's, I think it's having at least like 5 or 10 skills in your skills area. It's getting a couple of recommendations. Those are usually the things that help you fill out a complete profile, at least get to like 80, 90%.
Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned a couple of things. So first of all, the headline. I didn't realize until I started really using LinkedIn. At first, I had CEO as my headline. And then I was doing a search and I saw my name come up and it just said CEO. And I said, wow, if somebody were looking for me or someone like me, they wouldn't be able to decipher what that CEO was versus anything else. So I ended up changing it to business plan writer for companies raising capital.
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about the importance of not just saying CEO, because we have that listing of people that may interest you. And if you just have CEO, it's not going to pull people, right?
Correct. And that's a great question. And, there's a couple things that go into that headline, which is very powerful, right? Because you have to think about when somebody first pulls you up on LinkedIn, they see what I call the money area. The money area is your photo, your name, your headline, your metro area, and then you can see how many, contacts that person has. So you kind of have to get all those things right. Again, it starts with a nice photo. your name. It should just be the first and last name. And that headline is something that I spend a lot of time with my clients on. And typically it's like CEO at blah, blah, blah company or account manager at blah, blah, blah company. And here's what I've learned. Number one, you have to be tapped into what are your prospects' biggest pain points. For me, working with sales professionals, that's cold calling, door knocking, telemarketing, learning how to use LinkedIn, not having enough sales opportunities, not having enough appointments. So to me, saying something about all of those things is really more important than my title. People don't care if I'm the janitor of a company. If I can help you not have to knock on so many doors and make so many miscellaneous cold calls during the day, they don't care if I'm the junior sales rep, the janitor, the guy that removes the trash. They want help with their problem. So we really focus on turning that headline area into a value statement that says, I'm so-and-so and I can help you with A, B, and C challenge. Now you can still sneak your title in there, because, maybe it is important for you to want people to know that you are the CEO of your company. But to me, there's probably about 5 or 10 things that are more important or more powerful than the fact that you're the head of the company. So that headline, again, it has to be a value statement that really speaks to, that prospect that would be looking at your profile.
Right. Now, a couple of other things that you talk about in profiles, so I'm going to take it a step by step. You mentioned testimonials, and I want people to understand that there's a difference between testimonials and LinkedIn and endorsements. The endorsements are just people saying you're great at strategic planning. But the testimonial, and then let me know if I'm incorrect here, is somebody saying, I worked with Johannes Swat. I started out at, 2 calls a day, and now I'm at 22 calls a day. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think some people get those confused. So the endorsements are based off the skills that you put in your profile. So you, as Cherie Warwick, you would have in your skills section of your profile, things like financing, business plans. Those are all skills that you have based off of what you do. People can go and look at your profile and hit the little plus next to each skill and endorse those skills to basically say, okay, Cherie has a skill of finance here. I'm in fact endorsing that skill because I know Cherie knows a lot about finance. Or writing business plans. I'm going to hit the plus and endorse that skill because Cherie's worked with me and she's great at crafting business plans that get results. So those are the endorsements which have to do with the skills on your profile. The recommendation is exactly that. It's when somebody takes the time to say, Cherie Warwick is the greatest thing since sliced bread. They're going to write a recommendation that's a couple of sentences or a paragraph. They're going to send that over to you, and you actually have to accept that written recommendation so that it can be displayed on your LinkedIn profile, which is something that's very important because, again, as our prospects are now using things like LinkedIn to research who we are, and if we can get them the results that we say we can, the recommendations are a huge part in giving you credibility and making that prospect feel comfortable that you can get them from point A to point B.
Right, and we can actually ask people to recommend us, which is
which is a game changer because there are people that we've done great work for who maybe wouldn't think to give us a recommendation. But if you went in there, you've done a great job, you've gotten that client great results, and instead of waiting 3 years for that person to say, oh, maybe I should give Cherie a recommendation, you can go in there and based on the fact that you did great work, you can ask somebody for a recommendation that you can be pretty sure that they would give you one. So the ability to proactively go into LinkedIn and do certain things versus waiting for them, to me is a game changer, and the recommendations is one of those.
Great. So one of the things that I would suggest people to do is to start a campaign to build up your testimonials, because testimonials are a huge selling point on a website or on a LinkedIn page. One of the other things I would suggest is when you contact people to ask for that testimonial, write a little something up that they're able to change. I don't know if you can do that through LinkedIn or if you have to send them a separate email. Maybe you can answer that, Johannes. But I've discovered I get my testimonials fastest when I write up 3 to 5 sentences and send it to the person and say, change whatever you'd like and post it, please.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. As, LinkedIn is really a tool based off relationships, right? That's the one thing that you always have to monitor. So again, if you've done a great job, if you've built a great relationship with somebody, with a client, and you know that they're busy, make their job easier by maybe writing a brief outline of what you'd like them to say. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they've even told you, look, just write up something, just send it to me and I'll approve it. So yeah, I mean, budget some time to go and get 1 or 2 recommendations a week, because if I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile and I see that your last recommendation that you've gotten was, 1977, my first thought is, what have you been up to for the last 20 years? So I see a lot of people, again, not to exaggerate, but I see a lot of people who's, haven't had a decent recommendation since 2011, 2012. I know you're out there doing great work, but in my mind, I just need that extra confirmation. I want to see where you recently worked with a client and you've recently got them those results that you've been talking about. And that's just the extra confirmation in my mind that makes it easier for me to reach out to you and ask you if you can do the same for me.
Right. So I like the idea of getting 1 to 2 per week. Another part of the profile that you teach about is adding videos and white papers and slide shares to a profile. Talk to us a little bit more about why that's important for us to do.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, LinkedIn, I think, especially when you think about a couple years ago, you really think about a platform that was based off a lot of text, right? You see people sharing articles, which again, you have to read as a lot of text. The LinkedIn profile is a lot of text, especially for people who don't necessarily have a good idea of what the profile should be. And they've got 4 paragraphs in their summary, and then they've got 4 paragraphs for each of their jobs that they've had in their experience section. It can be a lot to read through. And so the way to break up that text monotony, what I call, is to have visuals in there. So break it up with a photo, with a video, with a slide share. In my opinion, out of all the things that you can put in your LinkedIn profile, a video is going to be the most powerful, because I'm reading, and suddenly I can just click and hit play, sit back, and, listen to you speak, listen to your opinion, listen to you giving great tips, kind of get a sense of your style, how you talk, if you're approachable. So to me, if you're going to put anything in there, start with a picture, because we all probably have pictures of things related to our business on our hard drive. But if you have the time and you have the budget, highly suggest getting videos. I had a prospect that reached out to me a couple of days ago, wants me to do a training for their team of 20 executives. First thing they mentioned in their email when they reached out to me, they had studied my profile, they had saw a couple of tips on my video, and that's what got them interested. So.
Great. Fantastic. So that moves right into the next line of question I was going to ask. Let's say we have a good profile. How do we actually get it out there in front of, our prospects, our ideal prospects? I know last week you and I you were speaking at a conference that I went to, and you actually had some really great tips in terms of how you can actually, I won't necessarily promote our services, but just start connecting with the right people and the right prospects. So I'd love for you to chat about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to start off by kind of, framing it like this. If you spend thousands of dollars getting a new website built, right? Well, until you kind of also invest in SEO, right? Because for example, for you want to come up on the first page of Google when somebody types in finance expert or, crafting business plans or help with business plans. If you don't have SEO, if you don't have the right wording in your profile, then, or in your website, then it's just another website out there in cyberspace that nobody can find. So you have to build a website, but then you also have to be able to drive traffic to that website so people can see what you're all about. Now, on LinkedIn, I see a lot of people, they get their brand new profile, they've got their new profile picture, and they kind of dust it off and they're good. But unless you're active on LinkedIn, right? If you just got a brand new profile, but you don't log in, then you don't log into LinkedIn for another 3 months, then, people have to know that you're on. How do people know that you're on and active in LinkedIn? When I sign in, when I see Cherie sharing articles, when I see Cherie liking and commenting on LinkedIn, when I see Cherie, advertising for an event that you're having on LinkedIn, that drives me to go and look. Every time I see an update from you, that's going to drive traffic to your profile. So in order to get that profile in front of the right decision makers, you got to be active on LinkedIn. Doesn't mean you have to go crazy and be on LinkedIn every day. But you got to sign in every, couple days, kind of know what to do. The other thing is, in order to get the right profile views, you need to be putting out content or putting up updates that are relevant to your target market. So for you, you're a finance expert, you help with business consulting and business plans. But if all I see here is, every time you share an update, it's about Apple or the new iPhone, right? Or you're updating me about your favorite restaurant. That's kind of like not really in your lane. So while you may have 100 profile views, they're going to be from miscellaneous people who like Apple and who like this and like that, but not people who need help with financing. So the type of updates need to be relevant to your target audience so that you're driving traffic from your target audience. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the ways that we can drive traffic. One is the LinkedIn blogs, which I've started doing. I've posted probably about 7 or 8 now, and I went a couple of days ago in preparation for this interview and I checked my stats. I saw something interesting, and I had heard about this in marketing a while ago, but when I saw the numbers, I thought, oh my goodness, this is true. I had one article that talked about Gene Simmons, and the title of it was something about how Gene Simmons helped you build your business or something like that. And then the rest of my article titles were plain vanilla, how do you raise capital and things like that. My regular articles got like 20 views, and the Gene Simmons article got 100 and something. So one of the things that I learned a long time ago is anytime you can connect your article with or your campaigns with either celebrity or current events, it does a lot better. And I thought, okay, I'm going to start layering that in a little bit more. Tell us some of the other tips that you're giving people in terms of how to write blogs that actually will be viewed and then will be acted on.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the same, I'll kind of take a step back and go back to the LinkedIn profile. Like you said, linking Gene Simmons, maybe even had a visual of Gene Simmons, kind of click on that and that gets people to the article or to the blog. But yeah, just seeing the word Gene Simmons gathers interest versus having that kind of vanilla, here's another financing trick or tip or something like that. Same thing with your LinkedIn profile. You've got the vanilla headline, CEO at ABC company, sales rep. It's nobody's interested in really clicking into your profile, seeing what you're all about. So that's why that title or that headline is so crucial. Now back to the blog. Yeah, I have another great example. I just put out a blog, I think it was yesterday, and the title was, I'm so excited I'm getting engaged on LinkedIn. Then I had a big visual of a huge wedding ring, and I knew I was going to get a lot of traffic from a lot of women when I put that visual of the wedding ring. But obviously, women being a little more, this whole thing, like I'm getting engaged on LinkedIn and seeing the ring, that drove a lot of traffic there. And a lot of people commented and said, man, great way to get me to look at the article. Of course, they like the article, but you got to do something to kind of get them there and click on it and read it in the first place. So back to your point, not using the vanilla headline, using something interesting. If you see Gene Simmons and you like Gene Simmons, again, you don't care about what the article's about. You just see Gene Simmons and you're going to get excited about that. So using your skills of creativity, linking into current events or, putting a visual of something that's very appealing to people, you still have to use those same marketing and branding tricks and strategies to drive people to read the content.
Right. So I thought that was very interesting. Tell us about the power of using the LinkedIn blogs in order to be considered a thought leader and how that can convert to sales.
Yeah, I think that's just, another strategy or another, bucket that you're using to build your credibility. It's kind of like the person that has a book versus the person that doesn't. Mm-hmm. If you got a book, which I know you have a book, and actually my mom came into my office yesterday and stole my book and took it back to her house. But luckily I had two copies. Two copies. So
great.
I told her to keep it. But yeah, right. If you've got a book, right? Let's say you're speaking, right? You're doing a speaking tour, or you're doing public speaking. That's one thing that gives you more credibility than the person that doesn't. And let's say you also have a book. Again, that's another thing that positions you as the expert versus the person that doesn't. So again, a nice LinkedIn profile that positions you as an expert, a lot of recommendations, and then you also are blogging on a regular basis on LinkedIn and giving your opinion and getting all this feedback. You're really doing multiple things that position you as the expert and give you that credibility. And as somebody who's also out there looking for services, I'm going to go to somebody that seems more credible and seems to have more expertise and more insight on helping me with my specific challenges. So again, they shouldn't look at any one thing as saying, okay, I got a great profile. I got a billion new clients yesterday. Or I just started blogging. I got a billion new clients. It's an overall strategy. Everything is a piece of the pie to help you get to where you need to go.
Right. So I'll tell you a really good story. I purchased Infusionsoft probably a year ago. Infusionsoft, if people don't know, it's a marketing automation software. And I was looking around just at different blogs and different articles. I Googled, and I ended up finding and hiring this woman to help me pull all of the marketing automation together from Infusionsoft, just because she had written many blogs about it, and I was engaged because I started reading the first one and then the second and then the third. And probably about 3 weeks later, I ended up hiring her to help me because I had become stuck in a couple of areas, and she was a wonderful person. But if she had not had those blogs, I would never have found her, and I would have never hired her. So talk about groups. Another interesting stat that was here is that over 70% of customers use groups to research, network, and vet buying decisions. And the average person joins 7 LinkedIn groups. So talk about groups and how groups can help us engage with people and make more sales.
Yeah, great question. I think this is a huge area that I always get asked about. LinkedIn groups, because people don't know how to do it the right way, end up being, a lot of times what I see is people go in, they join like 50 LinkedIn groups, and then a year later they've barely been in any of them, right? Or they've barely been active members. So think about a group just like a regular networking group, Chamber of Commerce, a BNI, what have you. If you join 20 Chamber of Commerce groups around your local area, you probably wouldn't. You'd probably have one that you mainly went to, and the other ones would just be an afterthought. You'd be wasting your time and your money, being members of all those other networking groups that you didn't really go to. So limit the amount of groups. You don't need to be a part of 50 LinkedIn groups. The other problem with challenge with LinkedIn groups is that people go into a lot of industry-related LinkedIn groups. So if I go into a LinkedIn group called LinkedIn Experts, I'm going to find nothing in there but my competitors. Right. So, and that's good. I mean, you may want to be in 1 or 2 industry-related groups to kind of stay up on the trends in your industry, best practices, but you want to mainly focus on going into groups where you're going to find your target market. So I'll give you a great example. If you're mostly a localized business, if you don't have a global business platform or anything like that, you're pretty much confined to your local area, then join LinkedIn groups where you're going to find local business owners or local prospects in those groups, right? You can go into a lot of these groups and there's like people from India and Australia and Europe, and 90% of the people in the group have nothing. They're not your prospects.
Right.
So the strategy for groups, again, go where you're going to find your prospects. That goes back to knowing your business, which ask me how many people have been in business for 10 years and still don't know their business. So everything on LinkedIn comes down to knowing your business, knowing your target market, and everything from your profile to how you blog to the groups you join should be based on your business and your target market.
Great. So let me give you a case study. here. Let's say that I do human resource consulting, and I am looking for companies that have between 50 and 100 employees in the Washington, D.C. area. Go through just a little bit of coaching in terms of how you help an individual like that fully utilize LinkedIn to grow their business.
Sure. There's a couple ways. Again, we can start with the groups. We could go into, something like the Harvard, not the Harvard Business Review. What's that? Human SHRM, right? There's like SHRM. So human resources. So that's the Society for Human Resources Management, LinkedIn group, which has thousands of, not just people in your industry, but these are overall HR professionals. So if you're doing HR consulting, then you're going to find a lot of human resource directors and members of SHRM in that group who are sharing ideas, asking questions about challenges that they're having in their business. So that would be, industry related LinkedIn groups are also great for finding some prospects. The next thing is using LinkedIn's advanced search. So again, when you have some criteria, I'm looking for, by title, human resource directors, or maybe, I don't know if it's the CEO that you need to reach out to, the benefits administrator. So you could, in LinkedIn's advanced search, you can search by title, you can search by metro area, you can search by zip code. So that way you limit your results to just, the people who you're looking for, and then also, in the specific metro area or areas that you do business. For me, I have a virtual coaching tool that I use, GoToMeeting, so I can coach anybody around the world. I have clients in Europe and Australia, things like that. So when I do a search, I'm not necessarily limited to a certain geographic area, but I also know that because I live here, I was brought up here, I went to school around here, and I've networked around here pretty much in the DC metro area for the last 10 years, my strongest relationships are going to be in the DC metro area. So I might want to still target my search to sales managers and small business owners who are in the DC metro area, because that sets me up for my strongest relationships. I'm going to have the most second degree connections where I'm in a position to get a proper introduction to those people. So LinkedIn's advanced search is really the tool for finding who you need to get in contact with.
Great. And one of the interesting stories I had with advanced search is I was looking for at a wish list of a show that I wanted to be on, and I went on LinkedIn and I found the executive producer for that show. Now it is the Steve Harvey morning show, his radio show. I really want to be on that show. And I just said, well, let me just go and see if this person or if anybody with the show is on LinkedIn. And lo and behold, the executive producer, her profile was there. I haven't reached out to her yet, but using LinkedIn for research like this can be very powerful. The other thing I wanted to
I think to your point, a lot of people don't realize just how many other professionals are on LinkedIn. I always tell my clients, don't focus on 25 people who aren't on LinkedIn. Focus on the 75 people who are on LinkedIn. I had one client I was working with, and she had made some inroads with one organization, but she said, another great relationship for me to have in order to pursue other business opportunities with this organization that they were already working with would be the CFO. And we're on a training session together, and I said, why don't we just look to see if they're on LinkedIn? She said, no, they're probably not. I said, give me their name. We typed in their name. The guy came right up. So many of the professionals that you want to work with or who you need to get in front of or who you need to talk to start a business opportunity, they are on LinkedIn, but you talk yourself many people talk themselves out of not just how long does it take to just type in a name to see if somebody's there, right? So, they are there. They are there.
Right. So then let's move to the next question. Let's say we've identified somebody. We've identified some people. What suggestions do you have for your clients in terms of how to begin the conversation and I guess warming up that person?
Yeah, that's probably where the secret sauce is. I mean, there's no shortage of people who, again, know how to type in a first and last name in LinkedIn. They know how to stare at a profile, right? But where the rubber hits the road is your ability to be able to reach out to that decision maker and start a conversation with them and start building on an opportunity. And I probably find that single-handedly is the one game changer if you know how to do that. So some of the tips when you're reaching out to people, again, my standard, always personalize your messages. That's from the first time that you connect with them on LinkedIn. Don't use a generic message. Short, personalized message just to get them to connect. You don't want to give your sales pitch on the first message when you're just trying to get somebody to connect, because the whole point is to have them to be comfortable enough with who you are to actually connect to you. I think the days where people just accepted anybody's connection request with that generic message are over. Now when somebody gets that 101st connection with a generic message and somebody with no picture, they're wondering, well, I've already got 500 plus connections. Why do I need this sales guy? What's going to be the value of adding you in my network? So a lot of times when I work with clients, they've got 100 unanswered connection requests because they don't even see the value of connecting with those people. Again, a short message just explain who you are, what you do. That's the first step. The second step is going to be sending a follow-up message. And this is one thing where, again, if I asked you, Cherie, out of all your 500 plus connections who wanted to connect with you, after you accepted that connection request, how many people actually sent you a follow-up message? That's probably
very few.
You can probably count them on one of your hands. So,
right.
Just sending a follow-up message warms it up a little bit, gives you a second look after initially connecting, and kind of sets yourself up to start that conversation. Which a lot of my conversations are started on that first follow-up message. The third thing is, pay attention to the information that LinkedIn affords you. Again, you go to a website, you're hard pressed to find maybe a blurb or a summary section about the owners of the company, not the project managers, not the CFO, not the COO, not the sales manager or the director of human resources. So what I like about LinkedIn is you can go in there and get adequate amounts of information about many of the decision makers that you want to get in front of. Look at that information. Look at their title. Look at how long they've been in their position in their experience section. Look at their summary section. They're telling you what their interests are. There's even an interest section where they put things like I'm interested in sports or golf or I'm a part of these associations. People don't pay attention to that information. And you and I both know that information is power. If you're ignoring the information, then you're powerless on LinkedIn. You use that information and leverage that information to craft messages that get a response.
Right. So, let's talk a little bit about time management and the amount of time that you suggest your clients spend on LinkedIn. And I'll start off by saying I was listening to the founder of BNI this morning, Dr. Meisner, on YouTube. And he was saying that, some of the best networkers network 8 hours a week. And at first, we all gasp, but then if we're doing a really good job with our networking, we do understand that, that's going to networking events where you spend a couple of hours. You may do that a couple of times a week. But we could leverage ourselves a lot more with using LinkedIn. So talk to me a little bit about how you consult with people about proper time management on LinkedIn and getting the most out of it.
Yeah, another excellent question. Number one, I would never tell anybody how many hours I spend on LinkedIn because I'd be too embarrassed. But
it's too little.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, obviously LinkedIn is my business. It's what I do. So I'm going to obviously spend a lot more time on LinkedIn than the average business owner or salesperson where it's just a part of their week. But I would say, yeah, you made a great point. Think about how much time you're spending with anything else, right? If you're spending 8 hours a day making telemarketing calls, if you're spending, 5 to 10 hours a week networking, right? And what you're really not calculating is, okay, it took me 45 minutes or an hour to get to DC. I'm at the networking event for 2 hours. It takes me an hour to drive back. So you really just spent a total of 4 hours for that one event. So, I mean, spending 8 hours a week on networking, you can do that easy. I mean, you and I have done that, many times. So I would say a person has to think about any one activity that they're currently doing, how much time they're spending, and then start thinking about supplementing some of that time with LinkedIn. So again, if you don't want to spend eight hours a day making telemarketing calls, maybe you're going to spend 6 hours a day telemarketing and 2 hours a day, connecting and reaching out through LinkedIn where there's a more warm reach outs. If you're going to 2 networking events a week and you're spending 8 to 10 hours, maybe you're then going to, supplement another 2 hours a week after you go to those networking events, and you're going to bring home, all those stacks of business cards from all those people you just met. Then you're going to supplement some of that live networking time by using LinkedIn to follow up, connect, stay connected, and re-engage with those people you've been networking with. So that's the way that I would think about it. And if somebody tells you they're spending 8 hours a day on LinkedIn, maybe they've just totally replaced cold calling, door knocking, and telemarketing with using LinkedIn. So, that doesn't sound like such a crazy number when you think about it that way.
Right. So, well, I'm embarrassed to say how little I'm on LinkedIn. I'm trying to do better, and I am doing better. I started my blog, and I'm getting better. But there's a ton of strategies out there that we can learn from you. So, tell us a little bit about Learn to Link, some of the trainings that you do, virtual, live trainings. We want to hear it all. We want the Johannes brain dump.
Okay. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about Learn to Link. Again, it mainly is focusing on B2B sales professionals and entrepreneurs who are in the B2B space, technology, services, software. You're doing insurance benefits. You're selling office supplies, furniture. Your entire business depends on your ability to be able to get in front of a decision maker. If you can't do that, generate enough appointments for the week, then you don't have enough opportunities to sell your services and develop business. So that's where LinkedIn comes into play, is teaching people how to prospect with LinkedIn, generate prospecting lists that you can go and work off of, and start building a pipeline of decision makers that you're connected to, following up with, and reaching out to and engaging and starting those conversations. Other than just being a prospecting and kind of engagement tool for getting in front of more decision makers and booking more appointments, I'm also teaching a lot of my folks on how to build LinkedIn company pages, use that as a tool, and kind of do a lot of, I would say, guerrilla marketing with LinkedIn. Again, that marketing is a huge part of your activity. For those who are connected to me, they're always seeing my crazy updates, my crazy pictures, and I'm kind of thinking out of the box. Those things help keep you top of mind. And the top of mind factor is something that is really slept on with LinkedIn. The more people see you in LinkedIn, the more you're top of mind. And I'll give you a great example. I have somebody that gave me a referral to a sales guy that works at Paychecks, which is like the number 2 payroll company in the U.S.
Right.
And the gentleman that gave me the referral, I have not seen this guy in over a year. Again, for those of you who feel like you've got to network and do one-to-ones and see everybody at least once a month or once a quarter, again, I've used LinkedIn to more effectively be able to network and, again, stay top of mind. So I can have people that haven't seen me in a year still give me referrals because they see my updates on LinkedIn. They see the type of clients I'm working with. They see the results that I'm getting. And so when somebody mentions LinkedIn, they're like, oh, Johannes, I just saw him when I logged into LinkedIn the other day, and he was working with somebody just like you. So that's what I'm teaching people, how to use it more effectively to make the things that they're doing more powerful. It makes cold calling more powerful. It makes telemarketing more effective. It makes networking more effective. It makes your marketing more effective. So you could use LinkedIn solely as that one platform, but when you're combining it with things you're already doing, it makes them 10 times more powerful. And I thoroughly enjoy helping people build their sales pipeline without having to pick up the phone and say, hi, can I speak to the person who, makes decisions about your ABC services? And they're going to say, take me off your call list. Don't ever call here again. you got to do that 8 hours a day. It gets tiring pretty quick.
It gets tiring, and I've done it, and everybody else has too. So if you are in any way trying to sell your services, so I know that we are running out of time, but any final words you have for the audience today?
Yeah, like anything else, take your approach to using LinkedIn slowly. You see people like me that are doing all type of crazy things. Again, I've been using LinkedIn since 2008, so it's taken me time. So, if you're going to start blogging, if you're going to start, rebranding your profile, take your time. You don't have to do everything overnight, but do make a commitment that, yes, I do want to start using LinkedIn as a tool to generate business. If you kind of half-heartedly say it, you can get LinkedIn training and you won't do anything. So, unless you're committed to using LinkedIn just like you use your phone, just like you use email, just like you network, it's not really going to work. So make that commitment, take it slow, and, reach out to professional help, if you can't seem to get the results that you're looking for, right? So.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for all of those words of wisdom today, and we look forward to connecting with you. Again, team, we're all about trying to help you grow your business, and Johannes is wonderful with his Learn to Link program. So definitely we're trying to get a book out of him and a whole lot of other stuff. So check him out, learntolink.com. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Cherie.
Okay, and I'm stopping the recording.